curious and asking why. What's the why beneath that iceberg of behaviour? That is absolutely key. And if we all got curious about behaviour rather than just labelling it as naughty or disruptive or things like that, then we would actually understand how to then respond.
What's the impact that you're hoping to have on the world through the business?
There'll be a stage where any child can access any activity they want to go to. You know, whatever sparks their interest, they'll be able to go to that activity provider and they will be able to feel safe, thrive, and just really enjoy it. You know, like this plant, you know, you have sunlight, you have water, you have soil. All of those things impact how this plant is growing, and we are responsible for that. So we can make a difference and we can change and make the world a better place for all kids who are neurodivergent, who have disabilities. I'm Nicole Bateman and I am the founder of the Friendly Send Advisor. The Friendly Send Advisor helps children's activity providers, tutors and venues to make sure their sessions and areas are accessible to neurodivergent kids and those with disabilities.
Okay, so a lot of the founders we've spoken to seem to be neurodivergent.
Yeah.
So is it like, and obviously like a lot of people are coming out now that they've got ADHD and stuff like
myself,
that. Why is that firstly? Is it just people only figuring out now that they have it, or has it always been kind of just, he's just got behavioural issues, it's been one of those things?
Yeah, I think in the past, yeah, definitely, especially ADHD, let's say. So I got diagnosed with ADHD in December, and you know, that's happening a lot with especially women with ADHD, because even until maybe about 10, 15 years ago, a lot of the ADHD research was about boys and ADHD, and also kind of children. So therefore, the perspective was more about, okay, ADHD, naughty boy, behaviour issues, different things like that. Whereas now, you know, they know there's 3 different types of ADHD. Often the inattentive type, which is what I got diagnosed with, is missed. And a lot of females in their 20s, 30s, 40s are now getting diagnosed. So, you know, neurodivergent brains always existed, always super creative and amazing. But society, unfortunately, at that point, is not necessarily suited to help them thrive.
And just in short, what are the 3 types of
ADHD?
ADHD,
So inattentive ADHD, and then hyperactive impulsivity, and then combined. So some people would be diagnosed with the 2.
What's the difference between the first 2?
So inattentive is also, you know, daydreamy, you know, maybe executive functioning skills, organisation, and less outward hyperactivity. So for me, I have a lot of inward hyperactivity, but people wouldn't know that or see that necessarily. Therefore, that's why it gets missed in younger girls.
Is it harder to focus on tasks?
Yeah. Procrastination, task initiation, all of those kind of things. Whereas the hyperactivity, impulsivity is maybe more obvious to the outside world because that's increased risk taking. The hyperactivity you would see and then would be labelled potentially as naughty, whereas actually often when a child can't sit still, let's say in a classroom or anywhere, you know, they get told off, why aren't you sitting still? But actually it's their seeking movement, and that is something that they need to help their sensory systems to regulate. So therefore it is a need that they are needing to move, they're needing that vestibular input, but unfortunately a lot of the systems, especially the education system, does not necessarily provide for that always.
Okay, and so what you're trying to do is change that input? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, with children's activity providers, for example, my son, he's got epilepsy and is autistic, and you know, he's had to miss out on a lot of activities because people don't understand his brain, don't understand his, you know, the epilepsy, because you know, one thing that I'm very passionate about when sharing and when doing my training with activity providers is that epilepsy, you know, lots of stereotypes a lot of people think of epilepsy and they think of shaking on the floor and triggered by flashing lights. But actually, only 3% of people with epilepsy are triggered by flashing lights. Oh, wow. Only 3%. Wow. Stress, anxiety, excitement, any nervous system dysregulation, that can cause seizures for my son. So therefore, I try and bust the myths, try and get people to understand, actually, there's 40 different types of seizures, let's say. And, you know, like with different neurodivergent brains, you know, it's thinking about actually maybe they process in a different way, maybe they respond in a different way, but it's not bad. That's not a deficit. It's different.
Are the barriers to entry to try and almost solve this quite high? Is it quite difficult to?
I think what I suppose activity providers, educators in general come across is that they might have 30 kids right in front of them. They may have to then balance all the different needs. And that is tricky. Like, having been a teacher for 11 years, I know what it's like when you've got this kid needs this kid needs this, and this kid needs this. But thinking and understanding and looking at behaviour, getting curious and asking why. What's the why beneath that iceberg of behaviour? That is absolutely key. And if we all got curious about behaviour rather than just labelling it as naughty or disruptive or things like that, then we would actually understand how to then respond. Because sometimes when we feel not safe in a setting or scared, sad, etc., our nervous system is dysregulated. We might go into that fight, flight, freeze, fawn, flop responses, and that's when you see behaviour that challenges. And that is something that is, you know, that people find tricky to respond to. But I think understanding why and looking at it as nervous system responses and responding in a better way, that can just change everything.
So was your neurodiversity undiagnosed for many years? Or
so yeah, absolutely. Well, to be fair, I didn't really think, because I'd just seen ADHD, the kind of hyperactivity aspect of ADHD, I didn't think that I fit into that. So therefore, it didn't cross my mind. But when I was trying to understand my son's brain, his autistic brain, and then look into neurodiversity and really looking at ways to help him to regulate and to, you know, make sure that it didn't trigger as many seizures, I then started looking and I was like, oh, okay, actually, there's different types of ADHD and maybe I do fit into the certain categories. That inner hyperactivity, very much for me, my brain never switches off. Also, rejection sensitivity dysphoria, so RSD, is something that's very common with those who have ADHD. So that is definitely something. Task initiation. If a task is super exciting and I'm really passionate about it, like running training and all of those things, then I will focus on it for ages and I will hyper focus on it. But the boring stuff, like replying to emails and doing my accounts and all of those things, not so much. So it's, I then started understanding it more. And then I understood my son's brain, how to help him to regulate his sensory systems and his nervous system. Then I looked into mine. So yeah.
I feel like I have some level. I've been telling my wife for ages, like I have some level of this, but it's just, it explains a lot. I didn't know there was another side that is this.
ADHD,
Okay, so what impact did being undiagnosed have on your life? Did it have a negative impact? Or
I think because for me, like, I very highly masking, and so therefore I also had the response of people pleasing. So with the nervous system responses, when it's dysregulated, you know, you probably, people have heard of like fight, flight, freeze, but actually there's fawn as well, which is people pleasing, and that's often, you know, that's often a response to kind of just, you know, feeling dysregulated, not necessarily feeling that safe in that environment. So you people please. So understanding that, but the thing is, I think a lot of especially girls, because they didn't present in the typical way that the research back then had, that's why people got missed. For me, it only really started occurring, or looking back, I only started really seeing how it impacted me when I went to university, because my parents are amazing, and I always did lots of after school activities. So it kept me really active. I did stagecoach, I did swimming, I did cross country, I did all of the things. So I think that was really, really useful for me. And also, I couldn't be late because my parents took me places, or, you know, all of the different things. I had the structure. And then when I went to university, that's when structure wasn't there. It was the first time that you're like, okay, I'm responsible for this. You know, I'm up here writing my essay at like 2:00 in the morning when the deadline is at 7:00, and all of those different things. So I only really saw the impact when I headed to university. And then especially, I think a lot of parent carers, you know, with my son being diagnosed with epilepsy, my nervous system is on high alert a lot, because I'm thinking about, you know, when's he going to have his next seizure and all of those different things. So I think sometimes that heightened state that I am in then maybe exacerbates sometimes some of the different things that, you know, the procrastination, the dysregulation, you know, emotionally. So I think that then you notice it a bit more then too.
What is it? So we're having this conversation again in like 5 years' time. What's the impact that you're hoping to have on the world through the business?
There'll be a stage where any child can access any activity they want to go to. You know, whatever sparks their interest, they'll be able to go to that activity provider, and they will be able to feel safe, thrive, and just really enjoy it. That would be amazing. And also, you know, the education system as well, that they will feel safe and catered for, and really able to shine in their unique way.
Amazing. And is there any advice that you could give to a business going through kind of the growth stage that you're at the moment? Anything that you can share with them that they might be able to implement into their own business to grow?
So yeah, I think I've tried lots of different businesses in the last 4 years, and this one, the Friendly Send Advisor, has been the most successful this last year, because I have align myself with different people who are already serving the children's activity sector, like for marketing, for getting into schools, for, you know, Children's Activity Association and things like that. And so I've worked with them and done things with them, which has been really, really useful to then get me in front of lots of other activity providers and share my message and, you know, make that whole sector a more inclusive space for all kids.
Amazing. And I've got a magic mic.
Yeah.
Now, if I give you this magic mic, whatever you say into it, the whole of society is able to hear. What is your message to the world?
Get curious, understand the why behind behaviour, and think about different sensory needs. Think about, how does the light, the smell, the, you know, whole environment, how does that impact humans? And let's think about how we can adapt the environment in order for that human, that child, to be able to actually grow and thrive. You know, like this plant, you know, you have sunlight, you have water, you have soil. All of those things impact how this plant is growing, and we are responsible for that. So we can make a difference, and we can change and make the world a better place for all kids who are neurodivergent, who have disabilities.
A mic drop moment that was.
I
Amazing.
Bam. Was going to get used.
I didn't say that. Yeah, it was just a prop.
Yeah, no, perfect. There we go.
It was meant to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I have a mascot called Wormy, because worms cultivate that soil. I should have just said about Wormy as well. But there we go.
Amazing.
Too late.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank
It's been a
you.
pleasure speaking to you.